Hey guys, we are back with yet another tier list for Samkok New Force. Seeing as we now have our first holy unit, it's Sun Wukong, not to be confused with the other IMT holy units, like a bad naming convention. They should fix that. But yeah, since Wukong is out, I figured we should make another tier list. This is mostly going to be for spenders. So if you are free to play, just wait for my free to play tier list. I will make one within the next day or so. So for everything new, I already put out all just the regular food. We'll have some 13-star food, and the link tier are for units that you can link to the IMT and holy units. A tier will be for some just regular core units that are still usable. And then these 3 tiers here will be for all the new units. So first up, IMT Samkok, going into SS tier. Her AoE dispels a buff from each target, as well as reducing the rage by 1 and giving 2 allies an invincible shield, which is still really good. Whenever she dispels a buff from an enemy, she deals 7.5% of their max HP as damage and reduces the rage by 1. Whenever allies gain rage, it gives them a chance to gain 1 extra rage, as well as a buff called Desire that increases their crit rate. And whenever enemies gain a buff, there's a 25% chance to dispel it while she gains a stack of Desire. Dispelling debuffs is still really important. Her Hero Soul lets her basic attack dispel an enemy's buff, which is really good. It also gives a chance to inflict exposed debuff on enemies, which will prevent their buff from applying to them, as well as reducing their crit resist, lowering their max rage, increasing their rage skill cost, which can still be super helpful, especially in PvP, and increasing allies' damage to enemies with buffs. She's not going to dispel all their buffs, they're still going to get buffs, so you're going to have that damage increase. Chao Ren going to 13-star food. Lu Lingyi, I almost want to put her in S tier. She's still really good, but I'll put her at the top of A tier. She attacks 3 random enemies, gives them a debuff, which either they deal 25% less damage, take 25% more damage, can't use basic attacks, or they just get straight up stunned. She can restore rage when she inflicts a debuff, and allies deal more damage to debuffed units. So depending on your team, that's really going to increase the damage of your whole team. She also buffs War, Immortal, and Holy heroes with attack, defense, and crit rate. Works really well with IMT Sima Yi because he's throwing debuffs around like crazy. Although debuffs are kind of nerfed-ish because of certain fish you can use for debuff res and like Sanctum Shields, stuff like that. Hua Tuo, going to 13-star food. Zhu Rong, I kind of want to put her in A tier, but just for certain things. So she attacks an enemy front row and can inflict Onslaught, which is a damage over time debuff. It can also inflict it when attacked. Onslaught will also reduce enemy damage reduction while granting herself a shield, but it will also steal some of their defense up to 90% in total, and can transfer a debuff from an enemy to an enemy with Onslaught, which is whatever. But it can be useful for damage rush fights, for reducing damage reduction and defense. But otherwise, she's just basically 13-star food, so you can use her for that one specific thing. IMT Zhao Yun going to triple S tier. Really good unit here. Deals vertical row damage with extra damage if the target's still above 50% HP. He buffs his attack by up to 35% with Resolve and can give that buff to allies as well. When allies have it, they get a chance to block damage, attacks ignore some defense, and Zhao Yun gets a defense ignore and extra turns from Resolve, so it does a lot of stuff. He's going to be counterattacking, also has a debuff that reduces enemies' healing and shield received by up to 50%. Now, when you reduce healing, like shields very straight up, but when you reduce healing, it also prevents, there's a certain, is the fish out yet? I can't even remember. I'm drawing a blank for some reason, but the potential, I think it's 2-3, does convert over healing into shields, so it will not only just reduce shields from reducing shields, but it will also reduce shields by reducing healing. He also buffs his damage with Indomitable, deals max HP damage, and can stop death effects if enemies are killed by allies. So something like the Salamander, it won't be able to get off its invincible shields, which is pretty big. He also makes allies ignore 50% of shield effects and become immune to enemy passives like pursuits and HP reduction. This is really good unit here. Tons of utility, tons of damage. Hey guys, a little interruption. If you're going to be spending in Samkok New Force, make sure to check out my affiliate code from Aptoid. There'll be a link in the description below showing you how to use it. It'll get you 10 to 30% back on your in-game purchases, with an extra 5% on certain weekends. They do little events every now and then. That bonus you get back will go into your wallet, and then you can use that to buy more stuff in the game. So if you're interested, check out the link below, and yeah, back to the tier list. Jiaju going to 13-star food, along with Da Qiao. IMT Sima Yi, I'm going to put in S tier. Might piss some people off. He's kinda almost SS tier, but probably top of S. So his AoE deals 650% damage, a lot, but it's divided between all enemies, up to 320% per target max. So at least 3 enemies to get his full damage. At 2 enemies left, it still gets most of it. 1 enemy, you're getting less than half. He also has a really high chance to inflict poison, which is this guy's bread and butter, basically. He increases poison damage by 50%, and basic attacks have a 100% chance to inflict it. His rage skills have a decent chance not to consume any rage, but if rage is consumed, the poison debuff rate will be 100%, plus it'll apply an extra poison stack. Poison also reduces enemy hit rate, and when enemies miss an attack, all your allies get a damage reduction buff up to 50%. The thing is though, that's really his only utility that he has. He's just otherwise just straight damage. But what's really crazy about him is that his rage skill damage multiplier increases by 60% for each poison stack on all enemies. Plus if his rage is over 6, he deals an extra damage at 10% of the target's max HP, plus 1.5% per poison stack that they have. Even at Hero Soul 0, he's going to be out-damaging regular Lu Bu, plus with added benefits opening up slots in your team because he doesn't need a ton of rage like Lu Bu. So if you are thinking about getting just like 1 IMT unit, if you're just going to spend a little, this guy would be a good option. And his Hero Soul gives him more ways to inflict poison stacks, pursuits when enemies cleanse poison, increases poison damage, letting him detonate poison stacks, which is really cool. And then it also heals all allies, but he has to die first, which that kind of sucks. Gives him a permanent attack buff when enemies die, while also letting him absorb the rage if he kills them, which he doesn't need a crap ton of rage, so it's whatever. Next we got Sun Quan, 13-star food, along with Tai Chi Si. Lu Xun, basically food now. You could, like, if you're a dolphin, you could use him for PvP just for stuns, but this is like a spender's tier list, so we will have a different tier list for free-to-play units, like I said. Guan Yinping, 13-star food. Zhang Fei, I'm going to put into A tier. So he taunts enemies as well as the highest attack enemy, gives him an invincible shield to the 2 lowest HP allies for a turn. So it could be better, but it's still invincible shield for 2 people. He reduces damage he takes if it's more than 15% of his max HP, and can reduce the attacker's rage. He'll survive a fatal hit, and then he'll get unyielding and lifesteal, plus additional healing per hit. So it's still viable to use as a slot. Ma Chao, 13-star food. Liu Bei, I'm putting into A tier, probably below Zhang Fei because there's ways to reduce shielding like we talked about with IMT Zhao Yun. He's like, Liu Bei's almost 13-star food at this point, but he's still useful. He's going to be healing all allies as well as giving them a shield and a bit of damage reduction, extra healing, but he also buffs IMT and holy units damage reduction, and defense, which is why he's still in A tier. IMT Lu Bu going into triple S tier. He consumes rage to deal extra damage based on his target's max HP. He has an attack that's an AoE, which ignores defense and can buff his damage up to 45%. He's going to be doing a ton of pursuit attacks, and keep in mind, he can't use skills, so every pursuit will deal max HP damage. He also deals more damage to enemies with shields, which is super helpful. His Hero Soul allows him to execute enemies by applying a Rampage debuff, which also reduces their healing and shield received and makes it so they take less damage from those enemies with Rampage while also dealing more damage to them. He also deals true damage and does extra attacks upon killing enemies. Just super high damage from this guy. Only reason I have him below IMT Zhao Yun is because IMT Zhao Yun has a lot of utility as well, and IMT Lu Bu is basically just straight damage, although it is a lot of it. Lady Zen, 13-star food, same with Dian Wei and Xiao Hu Dun. So next up we have IMT Diao Chan going into SS tier. She does the normal charm stuns that the regular Diao Chan does, and charmed enemies receive more damage. If charm fails, she'll reduce the damage dealt by enemies by up to 50%. She'll be shielding allies as well as buffing attack and defense for mortal and holy units. Her Hero Soul allows her to revive an ally and increase their damage and damage reduction, and charm will make enemies attack their allies instead of just like basically stunning them. She'll also reduce enemies' debuff resistance, which is big because it's a lot of ways to buff it now. And most importantly, she's going to randomize their turn order, which really messes up enemy teams in PvP. Unless it's PvE, then it doesn't really matter, to be honest. It also makes it so allies with her Grace buff will act before enemies. And if you didn't know, usually the player with the higher team power always acts first. So this is really a PvP specific unit, which is what a lot of people are focusing on. That's why she's an SS tier. Kai Wenji, 13-star food. Diao Chan's going to Link. Also keep in mind, if you're not using the people in A tier, they can be Link as well. Like, not all of them are going to be linkable. I think Lu Lingyi is, Zhang Fei isn't. And I can't remember for these two off the top of my head. Lu Bu also going into Link. And then remember, like I said, I will have a free-to-play tier list out. So if you're like, oh, what is he doing? That's why. This is a Spender's tier list. Just reminding you. Oh, I didn't mean to put Lu Bu in there. Lu Bu's Link. Yuan Shao, I'm actually going to put in A tier because you can still use him as like a supplementary damage dealer if you're like mid-spending. Got an AoE that gives him an attack buff and damage buffs and can ignore 30% of enemies' defense and also buffs all allies' attack. Still okay. IMT Guan Yu, I'm going to put in S tier. So he deals single target damage while sacrificing his 1 HP. And he buffs his damage up to 40% and prevents his target from gaining rage, which can be good if they're under 4 rage, but if they're over 4 rage, it doesn't matter because I can still use their skill. His crit hits also deal bonus max HP damage. His Hero Soul allows him to dispel control effects and further increase his damage, as well as allow him to do more pursuits that also buff allies' damage reduction. So he does do a bit. Well, more than a bit. His Sacred Soul buff makes it so he doesn't lose HP from attacking. Finally, like he's going to be hurting himself a lot. It also heals him, gives him lifesteal. He has a 25% chance to ignore Unyielding, which is really, really good. It is a lower percent chance, but the thing is, he won't always have his leech and his ability to ignore the HP sacrifice because he needs that specific Sacred Soul buff. So he's still going to be hurting himself a lot. Dong Zhuo is going into Link. Sun Xiangzheng is Link. Sun Si is Link. Zhou Yu is Link. Xiao Kao, either Link or A tier. I think I'll throw her in A tier. She can still dispel buffs from enemies quite often and can reduce enemies' rage just by 1 though. She'll also deal max HP damage to enemies when debuffs are dispelled, so still okay. IMT Zhuge Long, I'm putting in triple S tier because he's still really, really important. Still a must-have unit. It's probably bound to change though. I'm assuming, like, since all these beasts that they released are the same as Isekai Saga and X Samkok, I think they're like 90% the same. So they most likely will be releasing a new set of beasts. I don't know if you knew that. So what they did in the other game, we had another, I think 12 beasts release. And if this game is following that blueprint very similarly, so one of the new beasts should mitigate needing IMT Zhuge Long for rage once you pair it with a fish, a beast, and something else. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. Oh, it's something we don't have in this game. So there should be a way to get around Zhuge Long. Right now, you need him though. So he's going to be doing everything his regular version already does with rage, crit rate, damage, attack buffs, healing, all of that. His Hero Soul will buff allies' damage resistance, increase their pursuit damage reduction, which is really helpful because a lot of really good units do pursuits. It'll cleanse debuffs from all allies, gives them a Sanctum shield to resist further debuffs, as well as a regular shield. It'll also give allies lifesteal and true damage buff, which is pretty cool. And he can revive up to 3 allies. Just super, super good for survivability. That's basically his entire kit is built around that. Lady Huang going into Link. Zhao Yun, it's either a toss-up between A and Link. I think I'm just going to throw him in Link. Zhuge Long should be at the top of it. I think he should be in S tier. Because you need one of these, right? You either need IMT Zhuge Long or just regular Zhuge Long. If you don't, you're going to have a rough time. So I think he deserves to be one step up above A tier. And you know what he does? Rage regen, healing, attack, crit rate, crit damage buffs, all of that. You need one of them in your team. Guan Yu, I'm going to put in A tier as well. Or not as well. Just straight in A tier. Big damage for a core unit, extra attacks, buffs his crit, and deals max HP damage on crit hits. IMT Zhou Yu, I'm going to put in S tier. It's just, he's a weirdo. His AoE applies damage over time debuff. He has 2 different transformations. Cinderburn State gives him an 8% max HP lifesteal, and he takes less damage, and 2 allies will share their damage with him. So he's going to be he takes less damage, but he's going to be getting hit more often. His Rage Burn State lets him deal 8% max HP damage, and he deals more damage just straight up, and allies can pursue his target. He can prevent enemies from using basic attacks on pursuit attacks and can stun enemies, just not often. His Hero Soul allows him to survive a fatal hit, remove debuffs on him, cast an extra rage skill, stun enemies, and store damage in order to heal himself. Just like I said, he's a bit of a weird unit because he's split into support and damage, so he doesn't do either one of those like really, really good. He just does each one decently, which is why I think he deserves to be last here. Last out of the IMT units anyway. Either him or Sima Yi. I'm kind of having second thoughts now. I think IMT Guan Yu might be the best, Sima Yi might be the worst, because he doesn't really do too much for the team besides damage, and a lot of that damage can be mitigated, right? So keeping in mind Spender's tier list, you're going to have those fish with the debuff res stacks. You're going to have the ways to prevent getting debuffs. So I think That's makes more sense in my mind. That's what I'm trying to say. So Xiao Xiao goes to Link. Zhang Lao, I'm going to put an A tier. Deals extra damage to targets under 50% HP, buffs the skill damage, and can cast multiple skills. Sima Yi, I'm also just going to throw him into A tier. His AoE deals higher damage if he has more rage than enemies, and again more damage if their rage or if their HP is above 50%. Guo Jia, also an A tier. His AoE can restore rage and buff allies' damage by 20%. He steals rage and can fully restore an ally's rage if below 4. Also buffs his damage if his rage is above 4, which is very easy to do. Now, like for these random damage dealers I threw in there, like Guan Yu, Yuan Shao, Zhang Lao, Sima Yi, Guo Jia, if you have a full team of IMT units, of course these are all going to be link tier for you, either link or food, depending on if you can link them or not. I just thought I should have some core unit damage dealers for like the Dolphin Spenders who are still using like maybe 2 IMT units and like 4 core units, just to give some options. And last up, Holy Sun Wukong going into triple S tier. Bit of a spiel here, but his basic attack reduces the target's damage reduction up to 100% from a base attack, which is nuts. And his skill can inflict stun and pursuits. He buffs his crit damage and crit rate, while crit damage ignores 40% of defense, so it deals even more damage. And then it deals splash damage that can inflict his damage reduction debuff or his stuns, so spreading the stuns around again. He can also pursue the targets of allies' attacks up to 8 times per turn. So again, spreading those stuns around. His Hero Soul allows him to taunt an enemy, but they can only use basic attacks. So as long as it's not IMT Lu Bu hitting him for like max HP base damage, you're okay. It also gives him Sharp Eyes that allows him to ignore taunt. So basically just a counter to your enemy's Sun Wukong. It also gives him a debuff resist and an attack buff. He buffs a random ally with Clone, which buffs their defense and makes them considered to be Wukong. So when they gain a buff, the real Wukong can gain it as well. And if they're prevented from attacking based from like a control effect, like a stun, Wukong will act instead. So another reason he's a counter to himself. He deals more damage to enemies with his Brawl debuff and can also pursue with a rage skill when they die. So again, more stuns. He takes less damage from Brawl enemies and can transfer damage to Brawl enemies, as well as receive some of their shield and healing, so it keeps himself alive even longer, which helps out against him basically taunting that enemy. Even though it's just basic attacks, extra shields and healing is helpful. He can resist 3 fatal hits from non-Brawl enemies, and they also can't deal more than 25% of his max HP, so like way better than Jellyfish. Finally, he can attack stealth units and ignore invincible shields and master shields, which I'm not sure what those are yet, but I'm assuming they're a buff from one of the new holy units, which I will have a video out where we'll take a look at all of them right away. And yeah, sorry for the long ass essay. This guy just does so much and you can see why he's so damn good. So that is it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know how many IMT units you're rocking with. I myself am not really spending on the game anymore. I said this in previous videos. These devs' other games, very, very similar. I whaled out on one of them and I was like a mid-spender on the other, so I just can't justify myself spending again for like the 3rd iteration of the same game. But yeah, let me know what you think of the tier list in comments below. Make sure you subscribe for more Samkok New Force content and like the video so it helps get pushed out to more people. There also is a hype function if you scroll, like if you're on your phone, if you just scroll on where the like bar is. I think I have I'll throw a clip on screen right now. You can hit hype. You get 3 of them a week for free. It doesn't cost you anything. So you can hype this video 3 times. A bunch of people do it. We get pushed onto a leaderboard. So hopefully it'll help push this video out even more. So I'll appreciate it if you try that out. I'm curious to see what the results are because I haven't been on the leaderboard before. And yeah, I'll catch you next time. See ya.